The essence of the entire engagement, starting from the day one, was in terms of figuring out a transition of with a Ranbaxy group, which was into pesticides now, and they were expanding across the country and was directly adding value to business decisions being taken in the boardroom.
Welcome to another exciting episode of FaceTime with Leaders, the podcast series by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm Sunny Pancholi, and today we have the honor of speaking with a distinguished leader whose expertise has shaped the digital transformation landscape across multiple industries. Our guest today is Mr. Uzwal Kumar Chatterjee, a renowned digital strategist and transformation specialist with over 2.5 decades of experience. Having worked with leading global organizations such as Pepsi, Jubilant, and Mahindras, Mr. Chatterjee has successfully led strategic digital initiatives in industries ranging from retail and consumer packaged goods to food and beverage and automotive. Mr. Ujwal's unique ability to merge technology with business acumen has consistently enabled companies to scale and navigate through complex digital landscapes. Today, he joins us to share insights from his remarkable career and discuss the future of digital transformation, governance, and innovation. Mr. Chatterjee, thank you for joining us today. We are excited to hear your perspective.
Good morning, Sunny, and good morning to all the viewers here. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Uh, will be more than happy to share my experience and understand more from you.
Great to hear that, Mr. Ujwal. Mr. Ujwal, you have had such an impressive career spanning diverse industries like retail, FMCG, and automotive, with your expertise driving digital transformation across global businesses. So, looking back, was there a defining moment or a project that truly shaped your career path and inspired you to pursue this powerful blend of technology and strategy? Also, I would love to hear about how it all started and what motivated you to venture into the world of digital transformation.
Okay. Uh, well, thanks for the question. I guess it takes me back right into when I was starting off my career. So for the viewers also, maybe I'll have to take you back a little in time. So this all kind of started in the early 90s, where I I was a small city boy from a place called Jabalpur in MP, and I got my first formal job opportunity in Delhi, and that's where I moved in early 90s. I was some kind of like 20 plus year old guy, having done my colleges, done my MCA, and very fresh from the academics background and landing myself a job in an organization which was dealing with auto spare parts and all. And that's how it's kind of started. And uh, well, uh, what happened thereafter was anyway for me the defining moment, because right in my first job I realized that I was a transformational guy. So that's where it kind of started with. So dwelling a little deeper into my first uh, uh, engagement. So this company was based out of Delhi, and they were making auto spare parts. And when I kind of landed up to meet them, I realized that it was an office full of papers and ledgers and books and everything. And in those days, I mean, it was not uncommon to find an office without a single computer. You know, so when I went in and I met a team of senior leaders out there, so there was the uh, owner come the managing director of the organization, the CFO, the operational head, they're all sitting around me, some 40 plus year old guys at that point of time. And I was rookie walking in to the world of, to their world from an academic background. So anyway, when I sat through, and obviously the first few questions were about my background, etc., and I was eagerly waiting for them to ask me about the work and the job and stuff. Well, then the MD spoke out and he said, "Look, we don't understand anything about computers. It's a new thing out here. We work. You can look around and you see how we work. Now, I'm giving to understand you can pack all of these things into the computer." That's what he said. And he said,
Okay.
"And if you can do that, this job is yours." Now, obviously, I was all coming out from college, all enthusiastic, felt that I was armed sufficiently in terms of my knowledge, etc. I said, "Oh, yeah, sure, why not?" And to be very honest, that was all that was to be covered in the interview, and I was in. And then, of course, the CFO there asked, "When do you think you can join?" I said, "Well, I can join immediately because I'm actually not having anything else to get on to. I came over only for this interview." So there I was. Within a day, I was already there in the office. And well, we started the next day, and my next day onwards, while I met people, tried to understand what they do and how they do and what was the company all about and all. Uh, my the essence of the entire engagement, starting from the day one, was in terms of figuring out a transition of a manual, uh, uh, operation-based business into digitizing them for their ease of business or enabling them in terms of uh, data keeping and housekeeping and so on and so forth. So that's where it all started. And in that journey, um, uh, I was supposed to set up the entire technology cell there. So I had to do it right from making a room for a computer to be there where I could also station myself, recruit a bunch of computer guys who would do data operations kind, which will be primarily converting manual data to digital data. And then I did have an opportunity to, or was allowed to hire a deputy to myself who would help me in architecting the automation part of it. So that is where it started with. And you see, what happened from there till the to the period that I was there was more than 1.5 years. Um, every day was a transformational journey. Every day I would tend to meet an individual desk of the business and talk about how he conducts his day-to-day operations, and then go back and bring out process in the computer and introduce them into that and help them in that transition process, which obviously took some months across. But typically we went table to table doing it for everyone. So my first job, in short, thereby was for me, to the question you asked, was a defining moment of mine in terms of I was by a month or two, I was very clear that I was in an area where needed transformation, a big time transformation for something manual to something very digital. And I was that catalyst and an ingredient who would cause that transformation to happen. And so by the end of some months, I was already a transformation guy who was taking them through a journey from what they were to now on digital platforms. That's been
That's truly fascinating, Mr. Ujwal. And it's amazing how a single experience can promote a career in such an impactful way. Truly, your journey really underscores how essential innovation and adaptation are in today's fast changing digital landscape. All right. So, moving ahead, Mr. Ujwal, having worked with some of the biggest names like Pepsi, Jubilant, and Mahindras, you have had the chance to witness and shape digital transformations across various industries. So, I'm curious to know, how did each of these diverse experiences influence your approach to digital strategy? Was there a particular moment or lesson from any of these sectors that truly shifted you to think about technology and its potential to drive change?
Post my first organization, when I moved on to the others uh, throughout my journey, one thing was very common, which I came across in all these organizations, which happened in various points of time, because everyone was looking forward to using technology to enhance their businesses and to bring in that differentiating element, which they were probably unable to do without the assistance of technology. And this is way back in the 90s, just like I said earlier. So if you fast track and compare with today, I think that is the common minimum denominator which continues. Every businesses look at technology to enhance themselves, to give them the differentiating element, to drive in the efficiencies, to drive in that cutting edge over competition, and also to be able to make the value proposition better for its customers, because that's how the whole uh, domain works, be it in 90s, be it in 2020s, or be it in current age. So that's where it took off. And if I may go sequentially with organizations that I worked in the mid 90s, I was working with a Ranbaxy group, which was into pesticides now, and they were expanding across the country, and they wanted to put their sales and distribution system in place. Now they realized that they wouldn't be able to manage the whole thing without uh, appropriate level of digitization, so that they could get transparency, quick to action information, and so on and so forth. So that was a task entrusted to me as an IT lead that joined that organization, and that was something which I did for them in the next few years out across. And so if you look at that organization, um, they were a pesticide manufacturer. Their important need for their business to be differentiated was to ensure that they reach far and wide across the country, have products which have got relevance all across different geographies, different soil types, etc., etc. And while setting up physical offices of dealer distributors, etc., anyway, had to happen physical in those age. But what was important is to, one, enable those identities or elements out in those offices to be on computers, to start using digital information, and also roll them back to the head office where they could make their decisions and strategies much easier. That was where the first thing came out on. So very clearly in that experience, I realized how much important the role of technology or automation comes in aiding, such business strategy decisions that one would want to do, which until then, most of it or almost all of it was being done manually. So it was a very significant change that I was about to bring around for them, and also a very significant bit of realization for myself to understand how well and how deeply we can add value through our field of technology. Now, fast forward to the next few companies, I I joined Pepsi. Even there, we apart from doing the hygiene elements of digitizing their business operations and so on and so forth, um, the task on hand, which was significantly worth a mention, was they said, hey, we want to understand the buying and the consumption preferences of our customers. We have our distributor networks, but we don't really get enough concrete information or verifiable information in terms of what their preferences are. And obviously, Pepsi took on Coke, and we know globally also they are the major competitors to each other. And that's where the underlying task to me was that can you bring in your technology to bring that differentiating element for us, and we can be a step ahead of our competitor. So there I was again, getting into the ground, dirtying my hands. I went into the exercises of, being on the Pepsi truck, going to dealers, distributors, meeting them out, trying to understand what is it. And, initially they would say, okay, what do you do? And I said, I was an IT guy. And they would probably not be able to understand what is an IT guy doing, talking to a dealer distributor as if he is a salesman. So that is the depth to which I needed to get into the subject. And that has been always an USP, which I build on myself, primarily understanding that if I have to make sense to this ecosystem of business through my technology know-how, I need to understand how a business runs and what are nuances, so that I can bring that upside of it through. So that's where we ended up providing information through analytics and intelligence reports in terms of what are the customer preferences in different clusters, different age group. We actually made the dealers even record or possibly provide us information on which kind of age group of people are coming and shopping for what, etc. and all. And I did a decent job in terms of bringing the first cut of information for my management team in terms of where they get a visibility about who is buying what and at what point of the season, and what is the mix of these SKUs or products which is being consumed out there. So that has been the part which was in Pepsi. And moving forward, I also one more thing while these were happening, what I also understood, um, strategically, all organizations, after they have set their own place in order, is to crack the mystery of the customer bit. Because fundamentally, they are the people who are going to consume your products and thereby give you the revenues for yourself. So in that era, which was later part of 90s, later part of 90s, early 2000, I had seen that industry kind of maturing out or gradually maturing out to understand that you need to woo the customer much more. And it was not just about running your own business part efficiently. It was also getting to understand a very important stakeholder, which was the customer. So as I gravitated from automobiles to pesticide to FMCG, which is more Pepsi, I was actually sailing through the journey of handling back offices to going closer to the customer. Now, that was also a very important shift that was gradually happening as I was navigating through my journey professionally. And so thereby the next company which happened to me was on the retail front. And I moved into Bangalore from Delhi with an organization who wanted to set up the first hypermarkets in India. So they were under the brand of Jubilant, and they wanted to start off in Bangalore. And while I was pretty much okay interacting and knowing how to understand customer psyche, etc., through my stint in Pepsi, here I was where I had to do, I was entrusted that task to go deeper into figuring out what are the merchandising requirements of a customer so that that could add value to a hypermarket offerings. And imagine coming from Pepsi, which had around 16, 17 products or SKUs, as we use the term there, I would have roughly around 1.5 lakh SKUs, believe me or not. I had 1.5 lakh SKUs in a hypermarket where I had to replicate all of that, what I had learned or what I had done earlier, and do it in a way that it can be packaged and made sense for the businesses to take a actionable call in terms of what to have in their stores. So here again in Jubilant, while, as I said earlier, the hygiene elements of setting up business processes, enabling them uh, on computers, ensuring all the business functions work. That was always on the side happening all throughout. And obviously, I had a larger team by then. But my core focus was on ensuring that we optimize our hypermarket business to ensure that we can make sense to a varied range of customers cutting across various strata of the economy. And how do we ensure that we have enough, um, what should I say, newness and freshness in our stores so that we can business right. So that again was a very important set of information that we were ending up capturing, because on every information like this that we were capturing related to customer preferences, customer sales, um, uh, the strata differences as to which kind of customer would choose what, was directly adding value to business decisions being taken in the boardroom. Now, interestingly to add, uh, because perhaps where I belong to a generation where computers were just happening, I have always had the privilege of being in the operational management board right from the first job of mine, which I didn't mention earlier. So that gave me a big advantage. One was what I was doing on the ground, interacting with everybody else in the operations, and thereby, putting together the right kind of information in a right kind of form and bring it back to the strategic team or the management team. Here I was sitting in that board and also able to understand how they were using it. So it literally gave me a 360-degree view on what is to be done, what can be done through technology, and how does that translate for a business guide, and how does that convert into an actionable point for the guys who were running the show in the back end. So if you see, this becomes the most important part in this entire application of technology in the world of business. Remains, while many of my experience today can be looked as dated in terms of technology, because technology moves very fast. But I by this time I grew this knack in me to figure out that what is it that doesn't change across times. So even today, this is very relevant in terms of the fact that whatever is the technology or the level of digitization of an organization, the quest is always to find out what is the new thing which can be brought in as an icing of the cake, and to be able to deliver the upsides of it to the business. And that journey kind of never changed, even as I have moved down 25 to close to 30 years in the industry and navigated through different technologies, different eras of technology, the eras of material planning to ERPs to BIs to e-commerce and so on and so forth. But one thing which never changed was this constant quest of getting technology to give the businesses an upside beyond what they anyway do from their business operations standpoint. So to me, it was very closely uh, related to every aspect of strategy, which needed to constantly change to make their business more viable. Well, that's
Amazing, amazing, Mr. Ujwal. All right, so let's move forward. Mr. Ujwal, you have had some remarkable successes, including driving a 30% increase in customer reach for a niche grocery retailer in India during your time at Cognizant. So that's no small feat, especially in such a competitive market. So, what were the key strategies and insights that played a pivotal role in making this happen? Also, how did you overcome any hurdles along the way to achieve this kind of growth?
well, yeah. So talking about Cognizant and this Indian grocery retailer, this happened sometime in mid 2015. That no, yeah, around end of 2018, 19, that time, right? Now, essentially, this particular grocer had the retailer, they had their basic systems in place. What they wanted was, again, to get the upsides of the business because they wanted they into a lot of niche products. And for that, it became very much more important for them to understand almost how an individual customer interacts with them or engages with them. So, very simple. What I went about doing was to emphasize more on their customer centricity needs. And on the storefront, what we did was we enabled tablets and customer engaging apps, by which what we did was we engaged with the customers and tried to understand their preferences and needs and so on and so forth. But generally these tend to be very one-sided. After some time, the customer might think, okay, why the hell should I be interested in providing all these informations? So what I did was I packed and I did talk to the stores operations team. I did talk to the people managing the shows, and I said, look, we have to give some value added services to the customer in case if you want to get to ask them to open up to you, right? So what we did was we started the pick up and drop services. So we said you don't have this or you need something like this. If you are capable of arranging, which of course my operational guy will figure out, we will arrange this for you. We have the option, either you can pick it up in my store or you can just let us know your address. We will drop it to you. That was kind of started in a reasonably large scale then. Today, it is not a big deal in the world of quick commerce. This sounds dated, but in those days, around the 2017, 18, 19, those kind of years, this was almost in its first introductory stage. And that gave us a huge upside of customer engagement and loyalty. Literally, there was an influx. And so my stores guy would come and say that, look, which were the more people coming in to say, can you get what is not there in the store? And I will pick it up. And that brought about, so while this was all great and the business was already started to get the upside of customer engagement, the second ingredient came into place there. Now I realized that, and of course, all of us realize that if the customers are coming and asking things which are part of your overall offering, but many a times not available in the stores, which means it became very important to ensure that the inventory and the logistics has to be very, very sharp and quick. And so what we did was we introduced handle terminals. Again, at that time, they were all kind of very new technologies to bring in, not something which today is there everywhere else. And we introduced those handle terminals at the storefront. and they would do an online inventory, which would roll up to the central supply chain inventory cell, and the supply chain manager was able to kind of orchestrate this entire uh, flow of goods to the stores and so on and so forth. And this again added to the increase in the customer experience part. So collectively, these two uh, actually significantly added their business upside, we kind of tabulated. We came to around an upside of around 30% from where we started these things there. Yeah, so that was it. Yeah.
Absolutely, Mr. Ujwal. And it's clear that those strategies not only require deep industry knowledge, but also the ability to adapt in an ever-changing market. So that's really, really inspiring. All right. So, Mr. Ujwal, as a leader in digital transformation across industries like CPG, F&B, and automotive, you must have witnessed firsthand the growing interest in blockchain technology and its potential to enhance transparency, improve traceability, reduce fraud, and optimize logistics is generating a lot of excitement, especially in supply chains. So, how do you envision blockchain reshaping the way businesses in these sectors operate? What do you see as the key challenge or opportunities for organizations embracing this technology?
Yeah, right. So sometime again around 2018, 19, when I was in Cognizant, I had this opportunity where blockchain was much talked about and very less happening on the ground. And I was part of our consulting team who was going around and figuring out what is blockchain in detail, and also trying to understand what could be the use cases and where we could talk to our clients who were business people across. What we realized was, see, as a technology, it's an amazing technology. We all know it. It doesn't need to be defined again. Uh, but what came through was that it was too complex in technology for businesses to bring for themselves in isolation. So what we realized over time is that, uh, if I have to break it in terms of phases that I feel that blockchain technology will get more popular and will get more used, uh, the first phase of it needs to be where blockchain is adapted by large businesses or even government platforms and so on and so forth. And which you see today is happening to an extent in India also. Uh, Government of India is trying to put together blockchain technology, be it in finance, be it in telecom, be it even in your power sector for power distribution and so on and so forth. Now, what does happen is the economy of scale allows them to uh, kind of put such a vast or a complex technology platform is, and which is the stage I believe today we are from an industry standpoint. Where it can, where I see this moving forward is, as I said, that those businesses which are very um, widely spread, they have a lot of diverse geographies to handle, lot of complex business processes to kind of maneuver through. Those are the organizations which can probably benefit more from it. One of the ones which again comes to my mind is, say, telecom. Well, finance, I didn't mention because finance, I think most of us tend to know that blockchain is having a lot of use cases on finance thanks to the crypto thing. People have kind of realized that probably most of the fintechs are or operations can be probably done well over a period of time on finance. But I chose to talk about telecom is because even telecom is a sector where there is a huge amount of customer base or very small value ticket. And one, ensuring that all of that in terms of accounting of it and data keeping of it, maintaining adequate transparency, but at the same time secrecy, etc., are all very perfect recipe for a blockchain setup to come in for. And at this point of time, maybe I won't be able to state much in specifics, but I believe these companies are also looking at blockchain there. Long and short, to your particular specific question, uh, the pros of blockchain is what all of this is about, whether it is the transparency of information flow, the adequate secrecy involved in it, the generally a very robust security system. Yeah. Uh, and of course, the ease with which it works in the front end, so that for the user base, it is so much more easier and so much more useful. But the cons of it continues to be that these are very complex platforms. They're expensive to implement and maintain. So thereby, the scale of business needs to be adequate enough to be able to justify a cost like this. And we will see this cost going down a little bit over a period of time. Number two, I very strongly believe shared services, which are like government's ONDC, is also in on blockchain. So there are quite a few things which are happening, which will probably make this technology more usefully closer and um, will be used more over time. But times will tell. I'm quite sure it's going to happen.
Rightly said, Mr. Uzwal Chatterjee. And it's fascinating to hear how blockchain could transform these industries. With your deep experience, it's clear that technology is playing a crucial role in driving real change. All right. So, Mr. Ujjwal, you have built an impressive career leading digital transformation across industries. So, as you look forward to the future, what are some of the personal and professional milestones you are most excited to achieve? And are there new areas or challenges you are eager to explore that will further shape your legacy in the world of digital strategy?
Yeah. So having navigated myself across 25 plus years, working closely with businesses, trying to bring in, understand and bring in technology in terms of appropriate mapping to businesses and their goals and visions of forward. Um, I realized that the way I want to chalk out my next chapter of life is to try and ensure that we are able to bring a good amount of element of business profitability as well as business enhancement or reach through the use of technology. Now, as I mentioned in a couple of times during our talk, uh, hygiene elements of business processes, conducting business, etc., are now literally hygiene elements from a technology enablement standpoint. But what remains to be continuing as a journey is how do you get the upsides for the business using technology today? Yeah. So, and having worked with businesses close by, and as I mentioned, I'm part of almost all organizational boards who were kind of breaking their head trying to figure out what is to be done next and how to make it better. I really, that's an area which I would want to focus more on because I believe there is much more that I can bring on table on that particular front. That is one part of it. Second is in my life stage today, I spend a lot of time trying to understand various sectors, how they function, what are the nuances of these sectors, how are they impacted by the global dynamics which are there. We know how today the whole world is so much more global and sensitive to global happenings or events. That's one more area where I'm very keen to kind of engage more. And I do in my personal capacity. I keep doing that all the time. And because even that is an area which creates a recipe for new technologies to come in and enable them or to action them out. So these are the two things which I have in mind, which I am looking and building myself upon. And I find it an amazing experience as I go through it. Yeah.
That's an inspiring outlook, Mr. Chatterjee. All right. So, talking about sustainability and ESG becoming such key priorities in sectors like F&B, CPG, and automotive, how do you see businesses incorporating these values into their daily operations? And why do you think it's so important for the future of these industries?
Well, the problem that we talk about in terms of global warming, things deteriorating uh, from a climate change standpoint, we all know it's for real. Now, there are my philosophy in this is that now we in every which ways collectively are contributing to this to happen. Now, while the world can't stop, and uh, what is what is kind of happening uh, from an individual tables in terms of pollution and in terms of probably playing with the environment uh, are possibly going to be a very difficult thing to close all of a sudden. But what can happen is if organizations which are nothing but a collection of people who are contributing to this problem or can contribute to the solution, which is where I position all these organizations as, and their efforts in the space of environment and making their businesses more environment friendly, ensuring that they probably add an ingredient of ESG more to it or CSR activities more to it to be able to, change it for the better. Because on a regular run, you might actually do a lot of things as to, for example, recycling of the water that you use, going more solar in terms of energy consumption, definitely going paperless as far as possible so that you reduce on those you there are things like this. There are many organizations who are beginning to understand that we could probably cut down on travel to be able to reduce carbon emission. So, there are various things that one can do in this area, and I very strongly believe that organizations need to figure out what are those areas where they can specifically make a large difference. So, for example, say when I was in Pepsi, now we had a lot of use of water, and way back in the 90s, we used to recycle water, and 100% of the water was recycled. Water consumed in the plant was recycled and reused, and whatever residue was generated, they were also treated, and you won't believe, there were manures made out of them, and the rest of it, which was a much substantially smaller part, was then adequately disposed. Now, the example I took this is because that kind of organization chose that particular way to contribute to its efforts to ensure that we don't really abuse the environment. So likewise, when different organizations can figure out what they could significantly contribute, and thereby what happens is each organization is able to make visible changes and not just follow them as a norm to be followed, and we are doing this. So I very strongly believe in that, and I think it's best done by organizations with their sincerity to contributing to environment and figuring out what is that particular area that they can invest. That's my take on it.
It's fascinating to see how much impact these initiatives can have on long-term growth, Mr. Chatterjee. All right, so that brings us to the last question of the session, and here it is. Could you share your experience with Directors Institute and how the courses or resources have helped shape your professional journey?
Yeah. I mean, I think journey has been very good. I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and more importantly, learning out of it. You see, again, I went back on the point that right from my first job, I have had the opportunity of being in the boardroom, hearing different people, different perspectives, directors, outside directors talking about the business, and also collectively kind of getting into strategic decision making. So it's not something which I have been unaware of. But while I chose to engage in this particular course, I wanted to understand, and which is coming out very well from DI side, how does it all work as an independent director if I was to be one? And I must admit, and I must say kudos to you and the entire team of DI. The package did extremely well in terms of touching and covering those aspects and elements which are absolutely significant in the role and for a person grooming themselves as a independent. So hats off to you all. I'm enjoying it. I'm still in the curriculum and I hope to gain more of it. But yes, a big thank you to the
Thank you so much. And it's great to hear how the Directors Institute has shaped your approach to digital strategy and leadership. Amazing, amazing. I loved this conversation. And Mr. Chatterjee, it has been an absolute pleasure having you with us today. Your insights into digital transformation, sustainability, and the evolving role of leadership in the modern business landscape has been truly, truly invaluable. So, thank you once again for joining us on FaceTime with Leaders, and we wish you continued success in all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, Sunny. It was a pleasure talking to you. And it was also a pleasure sharing my experiences and the journey that I've gone through. I hope we'll engage more, get to interact with each other more. Thank you so much for having me here now.
Thank you so much. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Stay connected for more episodes with industry leaders who are shaping the future. Thank you so much and have a nice time.